My name is Cassandra. I'm 31 years old, and for the past 6 months, I've been quietly living in my dream home, while my family still believes I'm stuck in that gloomy little apartment. My relationship with my mother has always been tense, especially whenever comparisons between me and my brother come up. So when she raved about Henry's latest house purchase at Thanksgiving dinner and turned to me with, "So, when will you finally catch up?" I just smiled and said, "I already did. I just didn't invite anyone who doesn't believe in me." The silence that followed was louder than any argument. As I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to prove yourself to a family that doubted you, hit that like and subscribe button. Growing up as Cassandra Peters in the suburbs of Boston meant always being overshadowed by my older brother, Henry. From the moment he brought home his first A+ in grade school, my parents set a bar I was never quite allowed to reach. My dad, Gerald, a high-ranking accountant at a reputable firm, and my mom, Diana, part-time realtor and full-time perfectionist, held very firm beliefs about what success should look like. Henry followed their rulebook perfectly. Football star, class president, Ivy League graduate, and eventually a corporate title that earned him everyone's admiration. Each success brought extravagant dinners and excited phone calls to every aunt, uncle, and cousin. His graduation party? Neighborhood legend. Meanwhile, my love for computers was treated like a weird obsession I'd outgrow. I'd spend hours coding in my room, and my mom would tell guests, "She's just going through a phase," always glued to that computer. When I won a regional tech competition in high school, my trophy was tucked away on the bottom shelf of our family display. Henry's football trophies still sparkled on the top. By the time I turned 18, I had fully accepted that my accomplishments would never shine as brightly in my parents' eyes. At my own graduation dinner, my mom spent nearly 20 minutes talking about Henry's latest promotion before casually mentioning that I'd graduated with honors. My dad nodded, adding, "Henry set the bar high, but at least Cassandra's trying." College became my escape. I chose a university known for its computer science program, despite my parents pressuring me toward business school. "Computers are for people who can't handle real social interaction," my mom said when I showed her my acceptance letter. My dad was a bit more supportive but still asked, "Are you sure you don't want to consider accounting? That's more stable." While Henry's weekly check-ins were met with enthusiasm, my calls were met with questions. Had I met a nice boy? Was I thinking of switching majors? Every holiday, I came home to the same questions. When will you get a real job like Henry? In my junior year, Henry got engaged to his college sweetheart, Lindsay. The engagement party was lavish, and my mom introduced me to guests as my daughter, who's still figuring things out. That same weekend, I landed an internship at a major tech company. When I tried to share the news, my mom cut me off with, "That's nice, dear. But did you see the ring Henry gave Lindsay? It's stunning." Thanksgiving during my senior year was especially rough. Henry had just been promoted, and everyone cheered for him. When attention turned to me, my mom smiled and said, "Cassandra's still playing with computers. Hopefully, she'll find something solid after graduation." I saw my dad wince slightly, but he said nothing. That was the moment I stopped sharing personal victories with my family. I got promoted, didn't tell them. Launched my first app prototype, celebrated with friends. Family gatherings became routine exercises in dodging questions. I'd steer conversations away from myself and ask others about their lives. I realized I'd never received true recognition from my mom. And strangely, that realization was freeing. By the time I hit 28, I'd settled into a pattern: show up for holidays, smile, make small talk, and give them just enough to stay civil. Henry continued basking in their praise and would occasionally shoot me pitying looks, as if to say he knew I could measure up but felt bad about it. Every family event solidified our roles. I was the still figuring it out one, and Henry was the flawless achiever. I stopped trying to challenge that script out loud. Instead, I started building a life behind the scenes. A life that would speak for itself. Starting in tech wasn't glamorous. After graduating with honors, I took an entry-level job at a mid-sized tech firm in Boston. Low pay, long hours, uninspiring projects, but it was a start. I shared a tiny apartment with 2 roommates and took on freelance gigs on weekends to build up my experience and supplement my income. My family's opinion of my career didn't change. 3 months in, at a backyard barbecue, my mom introduced me to her friends with her. She's still trying to figure something out with those computer things. Henry, freshly promoted again, patted my shoulder and said, "Don't worry, sis. Not everyone gets the fast lane." I smiled politely while mentally tallying how many more projects I need before affording my own place. Then, everything changed. I met Vanessa Chin, a senior developer, who noticed when I fixed a major bug everyone else had missed. "You see patterns no one else does," she told me. "That's rare." Vanessa became my mentor and brought me onto her team, letting me work on complex, exciting projects. Through her, I met Martin Keller, a venture capitalist who funded promising tech startups. At a company event, I nervously pitched my idea, an app to help people better manage their personal finances. He listened, nodded, and handed me his card. "When you're ready to build this, call me." For the next 8 months, I worked my job by day and developed the app at night. Social life vanished. Dates canceled. Friend meetups skipped. Sleep became a luxury. I doubted myself constantly. My mother's voice haunted me. Is this even a real career? But my vision pushed me forward. The app, Clearview, was built to analyze spending, predict expenses, and offer personalized financial advice using advanced data. By the end of the year, I had a working prototype that exceeded my own expectations. I finally called Martin. He set up a pitch meeting within days. I walked into that boardroom with shaking hands, but a firm voice. The questions were sharp, the looks skeptical, but I had prepared for this. When it was over, Martin smiled. "This is exactly what I was hoping for." Afterward, Eleanor Blackwell, a notoriously selective investor, came up to me and said, "I've seen hundreds of finance apps. Yours is the first one that actually solves problems." With Eleanor's support, Clearview secured its first $2 million investment. The next 2 years were a blur. Clearview launched, gained traction, and hit 1 million users within 2 years. Revenue grew steadily. I was featured in financial publications and invited to speak at conferences. My team grew from just me to a staff of 15 talented developers and finance experts. And still, I told my family nothing. When my mom called to gush about Henry's new car or vacation property, I'd say, "That's nice," and change the subject. When they asked about my job, I gave vague answers. "It's going well. Thanks." I knew they wouldn't understand or appreciate it. I stopped needing their validation. As Clearview flourished, so did my financial independence. At 30, I did something I never imagined possible. I began house hunting. Not just any home, my dream home. A 3-bedroom modern home in one of Boston's most coveted neighborhoods, complete with a home office and a small garden. With realtor Julian Anderson, who respected my need for privacy, I found a renovated Victorian with stunning interiors, huge windows, and a dedicated workspace overlooking the skyline. It was pricey, but with smart investments and app success, I could afford it. When I signed the deed and received the keys, it felt unreal. I took a photo holding the keys, but sent it only to close friends and mentors. Decorating that home brought me a joy I hadn't expected. Each item I chose reflected who I'd become. My office, a haven, complete with high-end gear and framed articles about Clearview's success. As Thanksgiving approached, I debated telling my family. A part of me wanted to. Another part didn't care what they thought anymore. I decided to keep it to myself, at least until the right moment. When Mom called to confirm I'd be at Thanksgiving dinner, I said yes, leaving out the fact that I'd be coming from my beautiful new home, not that so-called sad little apartment. Some reveals are better done in person. "Of course, we're proud of you," my father said at last, his tone steady and sincere. "Cassandra, what you've built is incredible. I'm sorry we never gave you the recognition you deserved." My mother, however, wasn't ready to let go that easily. If everything's been going so well, why keep it a secret? That feels unnecessarily private and, frankly, hurtful. I inhaled slowly, doing my best to remain composed. Mom, can you name even one achievement of mine that you celebrated as enthusiastically as you've done with Henry's? Her lips parted, as if a response was forming, but then closed again. She looked confused, thinking hard. The silence that followed said more than any excuse could. Exactly, I said softly. That's why I stopped sharing. Now, can we just enjoy Thanksgiving? I genuinely like to hear what everyone else has been up to. But my attempt to ease the tension didn't work. My mom pushed back her chair, eyes brimming. I can't believe my own daughter thinks so little of me after everything I've given to this family. Without waiting for a reply, she stood and left the room, her heels echoing sharply as she walked upstairs. No one spoke. Everyone just sat, quiet and awkward. Then Henry stood up. I should go check on Mom. But Aunt Patricia gently caught his arm. Let her be, Henry. She needs time to process. This moment isn't about you fixing things for her. Surprisingly, Henry nodded and sat back down. I looked around the table at all the faces suddenly filled with discomfort. My body felt heavy. I didn't come here to start a scene, I said. I just couldn't keep pretending. Sometimes truth is hard, Uncle William said, his voice firm but kind. But it needs to be spoken. The rest of the dinner passed in quiet, broken only by low conversation. Eventually, my mother returned. Her eyes were swollen, but her face was composed. She didn't speak to me directly, instead making neutral small talk with the rest of the table. When dessert was brought out, I quietly excused myself to the restroom, more for space than anything else. But as I returned to the dining room, I heard Henry's voice. She's probably exaggerating. It's not like she actually lives in real Beacon Hill. No way she's doing better than me. I froze. Just like that, any fragile hope for understanding shattered. Some things never change, even when the truth is laid bare. As I stepped back in, conversation halted. Clearly, he'd been talking about me. Aunt Patricia looked at him with quiet disapproval. Alicia stared hard at her dessert, clearly embarrassed. I returned to my seat calmly. Is there something you'd like to say to me directly, Henry? He looked caught, flustered, but then quickly put on a smug face. I was just saying, you can't actually live in Beacon Hill proper. You probably meant a nearby area. Those homes cost millions. I met his gaze. 3 blocks from Lewisburg Square. The previous owner was a tech exec relocating to Seattle. I paid $1.8 million. Curious about the exact amount. My mother gasped, $1.8 million? That's impossible. Where could you have gotten that kind of money? From my company, Mom. The same one you've spent years brushing off as a computer hobby. Clearview was valued at $32 million during our last funding round. I still hold majority ownership. My father set down his fork, dessert forgotten. $32 million, he whispered, the scale of my success finally sinking in. Henry flushed. If that were true, it'd be all over the business news. I follow startups. It was, I said. Page 4 of the Wall Street Journal, March 18th. Also featured in Tech Innovator magazine 2 months ago. Surprised you missed it, given how closely you follow the scene. The sarcasm was deliberate. I had taken years of condescending jabs. No more. My mother's hands trembled as she set down her glass. How could you keep all this from your family? How could you be so cruel? Her words triggered something raw inside me. Cruel, I said quietly. Let's talk about cruel. How about when you introduced me as still figuring it out the same week my first app hit 50,000 downloads? Or when you said my degree was a waste compared to Henry's business track? Or last Christmas when you told me to dress for the job I want while I was already CEO of my own company? Each line landed precisely. My mother flinched. Her eyes filled again. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said softly. I thought I was pushing you toward the best path. No, I said gently. You pushed me toward what you thought was best. You never asked what I wanted or saw value in what I did because it didn't match your version of success. I turned to Henry. And you. Every time I shared something meaningful, You shut it down. Remember when I said I'd gotten my first investor? You immediately hijacked the moment by talking about your new car. Henry's face fell. I didn't realize. I wasn't trying to do that. That's the problem, I replied. You didn't have to realize. The way this family is set up, it always favored you. You never had to think about what that felt like for me. Aunt Patricia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I've always believed you were extraordinary, Cassandra, she said.
Different, yes.
But in the best way. I just wish I had said it louder. Her support made tears prick my eyes. Thank you, I whispered. Then my father cleared his throat. I owe you an apology too, he said. I watched all this unfold over the years.
And I stayed silent.
I thought you were strong enough to handle it. That was wrong. I failed you. His words hit deep, healing and painful all at once. I nodded, unable to speak. Then Alicia spoke up, her voice gentle. What Cassandra has done is amazing. Building something from nothing on her own terms? That takes grit and vision. And Henry, she turned to him. Your success is impressive too, but why does one have to cancel out the other? The room fell silent again. Her question lingered like incense. My mother dabbed her eyes. I still don't understand why you didn't share your success with us. Because, I said, my voice cracking slightly. Every time I tried, you made me feel like it wasn't enough. So, I stopped trying. I built a life where what I accomplished mattered to the people in it. She stood abruptly. I need some air, and walked out the back door. I stood too. I think I should go. I picked up my purse, emotionally spent. Please don't, my father said quickly. Let's talk. As a family. We've had years to talk, Dad. Nothing changed. Why would tonight be any different? I moved toward the door. The air outside felt cool and clear. As I reached my car, I heard someone call my name. My father jogged toward me. For a moment, I considered driving off, but something in his face made me pause. Can we talk? He asked, breathless. Just us. I hesitated, then nodded. We walked quietly to a nearby bench, the same one where I used to wait for the school bus. I failed you, he said again. I watched the favoritism. I saw how your mother dismissed your accomplishments. I stayed out of it, and that was wrong. Why didn't you ever say something? I asked. He exhaled deeply. Your mom and I were raised with narrow ideas of success. Henry fit that mold. You didn't. But truthfully, I admired your independence. I just didn't know how to support it. You never told me that. I know. I should have. But the truth is, I was intimidated by you. You understood things I couldn't. I didn't know how to connect, so I stayed where I was comfortable with Henry. His vulnerability cracked something open inside me. I just wanted you both to be proud of me, Dad. Not despite my choices, because of them. I am proud of you, Cassandra.
So deeply.
What you've done on your own is incredible. I'm ashamed you ever felt the need to hide it. Tears slid down my face, but they felt healing. I almost called you when I bought the house, I admitted. But I remembered all the times I wasn't heard. I couldn't take that again. He took my hand, an unfamiliar gesture, but sincere. I want to know everything, your work, your life. Not to judge, just because I've missed too much already. And if you'll let me, I want to start being the father you needed all along. I nodded through tears. I'd like that. We sat there for a long while, quiet. Then he asked, will you come back in, even if just for a little while? I nodded again. Okay, but I won't pretend anymore. I wouldn't ask you to, he said. We walked slowly back to the house. My heart thudded against my ribs as we stepped through the door. The dining room fell quiet. My mother sat upright, composed but pale. Henry and Alicia stopped whispering as we entered. Aunt Patricia gave me an encouraging nod. Cassandra's decided to stay a little longer, my father said, resting a reassuring hand on my shoulder. I think it's time we start having real conversations as a family. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. I just don't understand why you're so upset with us, Cassandra. We've always wanted the best for you. I took my seat, my voice calm now. I'm not angry. I'm hurt. There's a difference. And what you thought was best for me wasn't necessarily what I wanted for myself. But how could buying a house and not telling your family be the right thing to do? She asked, bewildered. Because every time I've shared something important, it's been minimized, I explained. After a while, you stop offering parts of yourself to people who constantly hand them back as not good enough. Henry shifted awkwardly. I never meant to overshadow you, Cass. I was just trying to impress Mom and Dad too. His words surprised me. For once, he sounded unsure. Human. You didn't have to try, Henry, I replied. You were already everything they respected. I was just building something they didn't recognize. That's not true, my mother interjected, but her voice was shaky. Aunt Patricia stepped in gently. Diana, from the outside, it's been obvious for years. You put Henry on a pedestal and questioned every move Cassandra made. My mother looked stunned. Is that really how everyone sees it? The nods around the table, even from Henry, answered for us. Her expression softened. I never meant. I was just so worried about her. Tech seemed risky. I didn't want her to fall. My company gives me stability, Mom. Financially, creatively, emotionally. Everything you wanted from me, I achieved. Just not in the package you expected. For the first time, she seemed to hear me. Truly hear me. Could I maybe see more pictures of your home? She asked softly. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo album. I'd love to show you. For the next 20 minutes, I shared snapshots of the sunlit kitchen, the cozy reading nook, the garden I'd grown with care. My mother asked questions, not to criticize, but out of genuine curiosity. Henry asked about Clear View's growth, and for once, his tone wasn't competitive. It was respectful. As the evening drew to a close, my father spoke again. Maybe one day soon, we could all visit Cassandra's home, if she's comfortable with that. I thought for a moment, I'd like that. But on one condition, it's not a competition with Henry's place. It's just my home, a space I'm proud of. Of course, my dad replied immediately. Even my mom nodded. I'd like to see what you've built, Cassandra. Truly. As I began gathering dishes, Aunt Patricia pulled me aside. I'm proud of you for speaking your truth tonight. That courage? Long overdue. Thank you, I said with real gratitude. Alicia came next, voice low and sincere. That was brave. And for what it's worth, I think what you've done is incredible. Then Henry joined her, a bit sheepish. I owe you an apology, sis. I didn't realize how I was making you feel like your wins didn't matter. That was never my intention. It's okay, I said. Your house is beautiful, by the way. And I meant it. My mother's goodbye was reserved, but not cold.
We'll talk soon, she said.
That in itself felt like progress. My father walked me to the car. This is a new chapter for us, he said. It won't be perfect, but it'll be honest. As I drove home, I called Stephanie. You will not believe what just happened, I said. When I finished telling her everything, she said, I'm so proud of you. How do you feel? I paused, drained, relieved, hopeful. It's complicated. Family usually is, she replied. Rest tonight. We'll dissect it all over coffee tomorrow. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next few months weren't perfect, but they were better. My father called more often, asking real questions, visiting my office, meeting my team. The pride in his eyes the first time he saw Clearview's dashboard, that moment stitched something whole inside me. 3 months after that Thanksgiving, I stood in my kitchen, arranging a charcuterie board for my first family gathering in my own home. Need help? My father asked, walking in with a good bottle of wine. I think I've got it. I smiled. Thanks for coming early. Wouldn't miss it. His consistency, since that night, had become the most healing shift of all.
The doorbell rang.
Henry and Alicia entered first, with a houseplant in hand. This place is even better in person, Henry said sincerely. Alicia gave me a hug. Since Thanksgiving, she'd become a surprising ally, correcting Henry gently when he fell into old habits. Their relationship seemed stronger, and I enjoyed their company more than I ever expected. My mother arrived last, dressed elegantly, but her eyes uncertain. "Cassandra, your home is lovely," she said, offering a small gift bag. Inside was a framed photo of me at 10 years old at the old family computer, completely focused. "I found this in the attic. You always knew your path. I just couldn't see it then." That quiet acknowledgement made my throat tighten. "Thank you," I whispered. "It means a lot." I gave them the tour. My father admired the molding. Henry asked about my home server. Even my mom seemed genuinely impressed. "Your office view is amazing," she said, looking out at the skyline. "I can see why you're inspired here." "Thanks," I replied, still adjusting to her compliments. "It's my favorite room." Over dinner, conversation flowed naturally. I shared news about Clearview's newest feature. "My financial magazine just called your app revolutionary," my dad said proudly. "Told everyone at work my daughter built it." I downloaded it too, my mom added, a little shy. "It's helping me keep track of invoices." "I can show you how to use more features after dinner if you want." "I'd love that," she said, and I believed her. While prepping dessert, my mother joined me in the kitchen. "I've been thinking a lot since Thanksgiving," she said, "about the way I treated you." I stopped what I was doing and turned to her. "I thought I was guiding you toward success," she continued, "but I didn't realize I was pushing you away." She exhaled shakily. "I'm not great at admitting I was wrong, but I was. About your career, your choices, you." I met her gaze. "I spent years trying to make you proud, then years pretending I didn't care if you were. Both were exhausting." "I am proud of you," she said softly, "not just for the company or this beautiful home, but for your strength. You kept going, even when I made it harder." We didn't hug. We weren't quite there. But something shifted, like a locked door finally creaked open. Back in the dining room, talk turned to Henry and Alicia's wedding plans. The old me would have shrunk, but this time, I joined in with real interest. I was no longer performing the role I'd been assigned. Later that night, after everyone left, I sat quietly in my living room, taking it all in. Healing hadn't come in one giant leap. It was messy, emotional, imperfect, but real. We were rebuilding from the ruins of what had once been ignored and dismissed. My phone buzzed. A message from Amanda, my coworker. "How did it go with the family? Need rescue wine?" I smiled. "Better than expected. Rain check on the wine." I had learned something important. That speaking your truth is hard, but necessary. That some people can grow if you give them the chance. That your worth is not defined by those too blind to see it. I looked around my home, this space I created on my terms. Thanksgiving changed everything. One honest sentence cracked open decades of silence.